use them, they just look painful.
Is there 3 of them there?
No, she said you have to share.
Share? Must be a paper.
All right.
Well, we got a quorum, we got our recording secretary, and we got the clock on our side, so let's call the meeting to order and pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, have a roll call, please.
Mark Mills,
Here.
Mike Nichols,
Here.
Larry Moser,
Present.
Isaac Chavez,
Present.
Joe Stevens,
Present.
Joseph Bookwalter,
Here.
Chris Alba.
Present.
Okay, next thing is minutes from the March 25th, 2026 meeting. And it looks like everybody was present, so we all can vote on them. So is there a motion on the minutes?
I'll make a motion that we pass the March 25th minutes. Second.
Okay, I think we do roll call vote going on minutes. Roll call vote, please.
Mark Mills,
Yes.
Mike Nichols,
Aye.
Larry Moser,
Aye.
Joe Stevens,
Aye.
Isaac Chavez,
Aye.
Joseph Bookwalter,
Aye.
Chris Alba.
Okay, the first item is a public hearing filed by Carol's Restaurant, otherwise known as Burger King, which I did not know. Docket CPC 2026-02, development plan approval. I'll turn it over to, I would imagine, Liz to present the report.
Thank you. So this is a request for a development plan approval for a little bit more than a 3/4 acre lot where the existing Burger King sits presently, and it's to allow exterior remodeling of the facade and some work and changes to the parking lot, signage, lighting, and drive-through areas. This property is zoned roadside business, as is everything adjacent to it to the east and west. There is B residential zoning adjacent to the north, and there's a mix of roadside business and C residential to the immediate south. This request is a review of the exterior remodeling and reworking of the existing Burger King at 2201 East Wabash Street. There is also interior remodeling occurring, but as the footprint of the building is not being changed, no development plan review is required for the interior work elements of the project. The site sits in the East State Road 28 Overlay District and requires a review of those standards in addition to lighting and signage standards. Normally, a development plan review in the East State Road 28 Overlay or the RB District could be administrative, meaning it's deferred to staff as long as no parking requirements are being increased. But in this particular case, the applicant was required to come to the Plan Commission because they would like to use a composite material on their facade to imitate wood and masonry in this facade, and instead of using the actual materials, which could have been improved administratively. Additionally, the parcel is more than 20,000 square foot, and per UDO 403, both items then require a Plan Commission review instead of administrative. There's a picture there of just the area showing the site and the surrounding zoning districts in case you want to reference that. On the second page, there's a couple pictures of the existing site, just so you can have that in mind. And then I'm going to dive into the request analysis. So by a reminder to the board, because this is the first time I've done a full development plan review with you guys, development plans work a lot like subdivisions in that if they meet all the standards, they must be approved. If they do not meet the standards, they must not be approved. Versus a rezoning where there's maybe a little bit more that you're considering. So in order to look at a development plan review, we analyze the ordinance and how something does or doesn't measure up. So I'm not going to go through it in detail, but I did ask Miranda to send you guys the detailed plan review, which is the document that has the highlights that you may have seen in your email. It's not the staff report, but it literally lists every single ordinance from the UDO that was identified as applying to this development plan review, and then step-by-step analyzes how it does or does not conform. And then I've taken that and summarized it into the staff report. So there's some copies here in case you guys have a question about something, we can go reference that. But I wanted to let you know, not just for this one, but future ones, that's how I do development plans, so that if there's a question about why I summarized something the way I did, you can go back and see for yourself how I looked at it, and then that can help frame that discussion. So with that in mind, I'm mainly going to focus in on the things that where there were issues we were working through. Doesn't mean there's not other standards. It just means when I did the review, I identified them as not being relevant for significant discussion. So Sewer and water, I'm going to go through kind of our utilities first, is provided by Frankfort Utilities. There's no changes proposed to the service. We sent a summary of plans to the utilities, and they stated they didn't see any issues that needed to be addressed. We also did specifically check to make sure there were no concerns, as there's 2 lights on the eastern property line that are having some changes made to the lighting fixtures, and they sit right on the edge of the right-of-way, and the utility stated they had no concerns there from their perspective. 2, the county surveyor, who also received a summary of plans, stated this will not need to go before the drainage board, but he noted there is a drain that's in the parking lot that is actually physically sinking and needs to be repaired as part of this project. The surveyor would like to see that addressed. 3, Frankfort Fire received a summary of plans. They have no concerns or issues. Frankfort Street Department also received a summary and had no concerns or issues. And NDOT received a summary, and they have no concerns and issues as long as no work is done in their right-of-way or to the entrances, which the plans did not show that that's part of the scope. As noted, this is in the East State Road 28 overlay, and having looked through a full review, everything looks good except for the following items. And I'm going to run through kind of where the staff report was written, and then some updates, what you've been handed tonight in paper. Something I do when I make updates like this ran to the last minute. When I make updates like day of, I know nobody's had a chance to look at those. So I typically, in this case, I highlighted them in blue. That's just so if you've read the staff report, you can just look at the parts that are new and know the rest is the same. So we had noted when we wrote the staff report initially that we were missing some landscaping on the front of the property on 2 of the bump outs. Revised plan was received, and this requirement has been addressed as of today. We also flagged under the East State Road 28 review that they are using a fiber cement. I don't know how to pronounce this, but it's a brand name of panels that's specific to replicate natural materials. So this is an issue that once we get through the staff report, I believe the applicant has brought some sample materials. You guys will actually need to look at those and specify specifically as part of your end motion whether those are satisfactory or not, and if they're not, what you want done instead or brought back to you. So there's really no, from a staff perspective, I guess the only comment I would say there is the materials do appear to be in the color ranges that you're supposed to have, but in terms of their exact durability or type, those are questions the applicant can answer. When we got to reviewing the lighting ordinance compliance, there were several outstanding issues. So their initial plans were not compliant with light spillage to any direction. However, they did submit a revision today. It is now, with some changes, compliant to the east, south, and west. It is still non-compliant to the north, but I think there's a misunderstanding. The designer drew the property line in the middle of the road, and the property line is actually on the south side of the road. The applicant has stated they are able to make further revisions to the lighting plan to comply, but they were not able to get a set of revised plans to us before the meeting, given that revision we got was today that showed the partial compliance. There was some downlighting we had a concern about that was both up and down. That has now been shown on the lighting plans, but there was an LED strip on the outside of the building that it didn't look like they could make compliant. So the applicant has stated they are willing to eliminate it, but no revised plans have been received to this point. That conversation happened today. There's a rule that if you're within 600 foot of a residential district, you cannot have signage that is primarily white. So you're supposed to have colored for the primary part of the sign, and then white as just an accent. And so there was some discussion back and forth with Burger King's branding about what might or might not be an alternative. And as of today, the applicant and staff have reached an agreement that this can remain unlit, but then have backlighting put behind it so that at night it'll have a halo effect where the letters are outlined with the light and it stays compliant with the lighting ordinance rather than having large white letters. Again, we don't have a plan to show that yet, just a conceptual, and I've seen a picture of how that's done, but basically, it's sort of like what you see in an eclipse when the moon runs across the sun and you just see the outside edge, or vice versa. You're just going to have a glow around the outside of the letters instead of having the letters themselves be bright. From a staff perspective, they'd proposed going red, and that would have also worked, but Burger King as a brand was not okay with red lettering. We also have, this was a staff interpretation thing, but as it's a plan review with the Plan Commission, wanted to highlight that there was an interpretation made here. The primary Burger King sign that's freestanding does have some white areas around the logo that are included in the lit area. They are the minority of the sign, and staff did not flag it as a result because it follows the idea that the majority of the sign is a dark color near a residential district and your white is just an accent. But you could also interpret it that it shouldn't be there. So if the Plan Commission feels that that is the better interpretation, then you would need to add something clarifying to the applicant that they need to make that white opaque so that at night no light comes through and you just see the hamburger and the brand name. With regards to the signage plans themselves, the submitted plans comply with the ordinance completely, except for the lighting concerns previously discussed. We did receive those lighting revisions, and I already summarized that we're good to the west, south, and east. We also have clarified that the lighting on the building will be down-facing only, not up and down, and it's now included in the photometric plans, so we know that it's not going to create an issue. So consequently, I did change the recommendation because we're now down to, from a staff perspective, we're down to confirming revised lighting plans and some, on both the signage and the north side. So a fairly small number of things compared to where we started. So consequently, I've changed my recommendation to recommend that the board review the proposed building materials that the applicants brought. And if you're satisfied with them, then approve everything except the lighting plans and continue the final development plan approval of everything for the final sign-off to be administrative with Liz Stitzel to verify that the last revisions to the photometric plan and the signage plans have been correctly made to comply with all ordinances and the conditions that the Plan Commission has placed on the approval as follows. And then there's a set of conditions that I recommend. The first is that nothing in the development plan or your approval is construed as the Plan Commission waiving any regulation or requirement of the zoning ordinance or granting any permission to violate it without seeking an appropriate variance from the BZA if there's a practical difficulty. I always put that on development plans just to make it crystal clear that if we've missed something, we're not de facto giving a variance. If it's found later, they're going to have to follow the proper process. Two, the freestanding sign is a face replacement only, and that's because it's legal nonconforming. So if they were to get into the cabinet or the post, that would change what we need to review, and it would need to go to the BZA first. Same thing with the light posts. They're legal nonconforming, so noting they have to remain original unless they go to the BZA, and any reconstruction or modification of the posts and structure you need to follow that BZA process. Right now, their plans just show them replacing fixtures, so we don't believe that's an issue. 4 is just clarifying no words can be on awnings, and then no lighting that's not shown and approved on the lighting plans can be in or on awnings. 5, all mechanical equipment on the ground and the roof must be fully screened. So they are, there's parapets on that Burger King now. You can see it in the pictures. There are 2 areas that are tall, and then everything else is low, and you can see the rooftop equipment. They're actually adding parapets in between the existing ones so that all of the rooftop equipment will be screened, which will actually put the building into compliance with the ordinance, which staff is super excited about. But we always kind of put that catch-all just so it's clear that if this gets built and something's like the sightline isn't as predicted, again, we weren't waiving the rules. We were working with that, but we believe that there's going to be full screening there. 6, actually, this is what happens when you revise something last minute. 6 is no longer needed because we have a revised lighting plan. So that was in there out of concern that if you guys decided to not continue. So you don't need to include 6, although it doesn't hurt anything, I suppose. Well, it might. It limits them to 1 sign. I would just make sure in your motion you don't include 6. 7 is just, again, clarifying what's true anyway, that if lighting, once it's installed, turns out to violate the lighting regulations when we take a light meter out there, that the applicant understands they must correct it at their expense if their engineering has been inaccurate. And then the 8th one, which I added today, was that the applicant must work with the county surveyor to address the issue with the sinking drain. That doesn't need to come back as a development plan item. It's just something that needs to be addressed, and we can make sure it's there in the construction plans. Additionally, the Plan Commission needs to specify if the materials present are satisfactory for the building facade. You need to specify if the white border on the freestanding sign can remain lit or needs to be opaque. You need to confirm if the backlighting on the Burger King letters, with the letters being unlit, is satisfactory to address the issue in concept, as long as the foot candles are in compliance with the lighting ordinance when plans are submitted. you need to add a condition that the LED lighting must be removed or be shown to work with the lighting ordinance for the strip that they're unable to make work. And then all lighting must be fully shielded. The lights they're selecting all can be shielded, but there's nothing in their plan specifying they're actually ordering and attaching the shields. So I feel like that condition is important just to make it clear that they do need to do that. And then staff, I'm comfortable, if the board is comfortable with everything else, when I have that guidance with verifying all those changes on final written plans, and then before a final written approval is given for them to move on to permitting. I know there's a lot here, so please don't feel like it's frustrating if you need to ask me questions about something I said or you need clarification. It's my first time presenting to you on a development plan too, and this had a lot of last minute changes and moving parts, which I know makes it harder to digest. So I'll let you guys kind of go where you want to go with that, but I'm here and available if you need additional info. And I do have, there's some copies of parts of the plans that we made, and I think the applicant has some that she can also navigate off the computer to show you things if there's specific questions.
Okay, with this being a public hearing, was it advertised as a public hearing?
Yes.
Paper and neighbors?
Correct.
Okay, and so we have the applicant representative. Would you like to add anything to the, come up to the microphone, please, if you.
This is a rebranding of the Burger Kings. I don't know if you've all seen the new commercial with the new CEO that's come out and is totally changing the image of Burger King and trying to make it better. So the imaging and the standards that you see on the building is Burger King's corporate standards that they are implementing across the United States. It's already been, North Carolina has several that have been done. Indianapolis is updating theirs too. So this is kind of the new wave of all Burger Kings. The owner, they're the largest franchisee of the Burger Kings in here. So, so the goal is to get all the restaurants up to this new standard of what you see and the design and the colors and the materials.
And your name for the record too, because I think this is being recorded.
Yes, Rachel Cutler with Current Architecture.
And then I know I have a brand name, but if you wanted to speak a little bit to the board about the materials
Yes.
you're using.
So it's Nichiha. This company's been around a very long time, over 20 years, and they're the proprietary manufacturer of fiber cement siding. Fiber cement siding has been around a long time. Actually, the Burger Kings that you see, the one here was not used, but if you go to other towns and cities and you see the old other Burger Kings, that is Nichiha on their buildings. It's nothing new. It's a product that mimics, it looks like real wood and brick when it's installed, and cement. But it's made of cement, water, and ash. And what it does is becomes stronger and more durable than the actual products themselves. It can withstand hail without damage. It doesn't warp. It doesn't. It just holds up over a test of time. These products have been up for over 10 years on the Burger Kings, and you wouldn't know it walking up to them. It still holds its integrity. It's just the difference now is they, are adding new colors, new, more looks like wood, more looks like brick now. There's more patterns in the line that you're going to see. That's kind of just the newness of Nichiha, where they're trying to expand what they're doing. I have used this product on many other projects throughout United States. We do work in many states, and Nichiha panel sidings hold up to all weather. So if it's cold, hot, you do it in Florida, you do it in Minnesota, it withstands the elements of time. That's why it's very popular. We've put it on firehouses, we put it on commercial buildings. A lot of owners like it because there's no maintenance to it. It's just, and the contractors like it because the installation, even though the materials look like it might be brick here and concrete here, or EIFS here, it's the same installation all around the building.
Do you guys want to actually be able to see the?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you want to just hand that to Mike at that end, and they can pass those around.
Well, I put concrete siding on houses before. Never had an issue with it years later.
Like I said, the East Area 20 overlay does not say it can't be used. It just says the Plan Commission has to evaluate the proposal and decide if it's appropriate.
Heavy.
Yeah.
And since
Yeah,
it's a
they
public
are.
hearing, I don't see anyone in the audience to speak for or against unless you got.
Rob's gonna speak both for and against.
So if that's the case, we will allow any questions of our staff report or our petitioner. Any members?
Well, they have to, is this gonna require a shutdown?
It will for the interior because we're going to renovate the interior. But for the exterior portion that we're reviewing today, no.
We're prepping, Rob and I have been looking at plans. We're working on the interior permits right now. Those will be issued ahead of the exterior. It'll be two separate.
And we know the current Burger King has water issues. The owner is complaining that they have water damage on the inside of the building. So we're hoping the renovation will fix all the water problems too when they pull off the old materials and see what damage is on the studs or sheathing. And if it's coming from the parapets, all that's going to be taken down and replaced and fix the water problem that they're currently having.
Probably should say a little bit about development plans. This might be the first development plan we've actually have reviewed, at least under the UDO. I think it was put in the old ordinance briefly.
Technically,
Unless we did Culver as a development plan.
you've technically
sure.
seen, Culver should have come to you, but you've technically seen Banderas Point, but it was only in part because it was just like a revision. And that's, Banderas is going to be coming back to you again, I think, sometime maybe later this year.
That kind of got lost with everything, all the other issues too. We had rezoning and
Yeah.
joint city.
But this is the first one that I've done where we've gone through a process, so I know it's a lot. And normally we don't have this many last minute changes. It's just the way it went as they were trying really hard to resolve some of those final issues.
So this is kind of a new thing for all of us, and what development plans are really good for is state law allows them, and we never really had in the ordinance. I think it was done as an amendment to the old one and then fully integrated into the UDO a couple of years ago. And so what it does is for larger projects in commercial areas, downtown, the industrial park, has to come to the plan commission if it doesn't already need a rezoning. And so, and if it does need a rezoning, then it's both rezoning and then the development plan. So it allows the plan commission to get eyes on a more major project. If this is just a real small remodeling, we would not be because we see other remodelings out there on 28 and they have not had to come because they meet the threshold.
Yeah, 20, if the site itself, if the parcel that the property is sitting on, regardless if it's a remodel or not, is more than 20,000 square foot, then it must come to the plan commission. Now I'll note with development plans, even if they're administrative, as an administrator, I always have the right to send it to the plan commission if there's something I'm uncomfortable with. Likewise, if an applicant doesn't like my interpretation, they always have the right to say, you know what, I want to just advertise for this a public hearing and ask the plan commission to look at it as a board. So you can always do that. But if the plan commission and the legislative body haven't deferred something to be administrative specifically, then it comes to the plan commission.
So hopefully this will be the first of a lot in the future. Particularly the new UDO, but it's only going to be for more major projects and in the downtown and either.
And anything that's
west or east.
industrially zoned, anything that there's like 3 or 4 business zoning districts that anything in them always comes unless no additional parking is going in with the changes. There's a new building, even a small site would come.
So it's a good tool to have. We do have the final say. This does not go to city council. I
That's
don't believe,
correct.
right?
Yep, this is it's a plan commission final review. Obviously, if you defer part of this to be administrative, then I'll do the final in this particular situation. If you don't, you can require them to come back with those amendments. That's also perfectly valid.
How long have we had this? I mean, this is the last minute stuff here today. Somebody approved it.
So-
How long has this been here pending?
I saw initial drafts in May and did the very first May 11th of 2026 is when I did the initial review, and that review was without charge. That was just a preliminary, like, how do we mesh? And then they submitted a set of plans for this hearing, pretty close to the filing deadline. I don't remember the exact day, but it was pretty close to the filing deadline. And then, as dumb luck would have it, this is the last of 4 public hearings in the last 3 days between everybody that I assist. And when I sent the revised, I did the revisions 6/20, so Saturday I finished that up and sent it through. Now I will note several of the things I flagged were on the initial review in May, and they weren't like it didn't get read and addressed. So I was told over the weekend they tried to get revisions to me, and then I got the last of these revisions and conversation within an hour of this hearing, which is why then my response to you has been very chaotic feeling. That's not typically the way that I like things to be. For any of you that know me, I'm a bit of a control freak by nature, so I don't like chaos. But at the same time, I do try to work with what I'm handed. This did have a complete set of plans. The fact that things turned out to not be correct is a different issue as you review it. But this was not accepted by the office without any plans. And then they came in later. We did have plans. It just turned out things hadn't been addressed when they got reviewed again.
I don't have any problem with the siding. My question is, who's gonna be paying for the drainage ditch
Well, I don't know. I mean,
to be fixed?
nobody said anything to me about who's paying. Typically, an applicant has to pay if they have something on their site that's not working. So
That's what I was thinking.
the plan commission certainly wouldn't be involved in any kind of payment. But if there's a drainage, issue, typically applicants pay to repair what's on their
Is
own
this a-
property.
Is this a legal drainage issue or just a?
I don't know if it's a
private
legal drain issue. It may
drain?
be a private drain. What I was told is there is a sinking drain that is physically, its elevation is reducing over time, meaning something's moving underneath. And just as when I was in the office and when I wasn't, I've had a lot of meetings the last few days. I wasn't able to hook back up with Dan in the last 48 hours to try to get more information. But at the end of the day, we wouldn't do a plan review on a drain repair. We would just need to make sure it was addressed and it was in the plans. So I felt like it was better just put a condition it needs to be addressed and then let the applicant talk to the county surveyor about the specifics. And then we can just make sure when we get plans that it's included and pass those to the surveyor for him to say either yes or no that matches what I told him. So, but I don't actually know if it's a legal drain or just a overland drainage drain that's a private drain that eventually leads to a legal drain.
But the drainage improvements does come under the county drainage board threshold of drainage board and Dan's review.
I know overland drainage is within the drainage board's parameters and requiring properties to drain properly and not put,
Yeah,
and
that's kind of a given.
stuff off
Yeah,
on neighbors, yeah.
what we do here, so.
So what we do for a development plan, similarly to a permit or a BZA hearing, is we run everything through all of the major local stakeholders. So in this case, that was utilities, street department, NDOT, because there's a state road. County surveyor because of drainage. On a lot of applications, a drainage board hearing would be required and it wouldn't even have been allowed to be filed. But because of the nature of this, it didn't need one. So this is just a comment. But had any of the others had issues, if utilities had said something wasn't correct, we would have added that to the list as well. So it's just a standard process. You'll see that with all development plans moving forward, is that all those stakeholders have been talked to and what their feedback is, and if there's anything that needs to be included. And we're kind of a final gatekeeper, making sure that everything's in line and other departments aren't running around like crazy separately. It's all been included in the feedback to the applicant.
And as far as a sign, I've seen people take like small signs and on the inside of the sign where the white is, they put like a spray tint
Mhm.
and that will kill the nighttime being real bright.
Yeah, do they just make it opaque? Yeah, it can be done that way, or sometimes with manufactured signs, they just make it a thick plastic that nothing comes through it
Okay.
night. And so, because it's an internal, like, it's just a big light board on the inside of LED lights. They're white, and then their color is coming from what they go through. So you can physically take that white part and just manufacture it so that no light comes through it.
Yeah, I've seen people actually use tint on it.
Now, from my perspective as a staff, I don't really care how they stop the light from coming through the white. If
Oh,
you
they
say
do.
we don't want it to come through the white, and I imagine Rob feels the same way. We're just going to make sure no light's coming through the white. However they made it happen, it doesn't really matter to us.
I understand they want their sign to be seen at night, but we
Yeah.
also don't want people around there not being able to sleep.
Yes, and that's the concern. And the I will note there would be no issue with their sign being visible. The white there is in the set of plans you guys have.
Yeah.
I think over here we included a picture of the freestanding sign so that you guys could see it. It's maybe the third page from the end, and you can see how it looks at night. There's a little night view that's kind of in the middle. Did you guys find that? Before I get too far into. Yeah, so see that night view? It has a black box with the Burger King logo in the middle.
Yeah,
So the white that's there in the logo is what we're talking about. So if that white is opaque, it's still going to be very visible as a sign. You're just going to see the red words for Burger King and the orange, gold, yellow, whatever color we want to call that, the bun, on either side.
the colors.
The colors would still have light coming through them, so you would see the sign. It would just be the white that then would not be see-through.
Yeah.
And it would be white during the day. It would just
Yeah,
be at night, the light wouldn't come through it.
Yeah, I was just pulling up the county drainage map, and as far as the county tile, there's what's called the upper basin outlet, which goes along your east property line, kind of drains the pond behind. And then there's the J Fudge number
grab that?
2303 that runs kind of
Check the file.
southwest of your site, that's classified as a county legal
Yeah.
drain, and so
I'm not going to even try to speak to which one is sinking. It's just, making sure that they talk to the county surveyor and resolve the issue, I think is the important part.
Yeah, neither is on the property to the extent that Beacon is precise, but it's real close. And
But
so-
if they've got drainage that's pulling water off of the property and entering either of
Right.
those drains, Dan would still have jurisdiction.
In fact, the building itself could be within that drainage easement. And so drainage board approval, we say is going to be,
No, Dan said no drainage board approval is needed because this is a remodel in an existing building. They're not making any additions. But the scope of work where they're working in the parking lot and they're doing other things, Dan does feel that the sinking drain, which may well have a sinkhole underneath it, it could pose a risk to safety, needs to be addressed as part of the project. That's,
so close to drainage
it doesn't have to go to the
infrastructure.
drainage board. They don't need an extra hearing. He just wants them to talk to him and get that drain addressed.
who's on inspected?
County surveyor usually takes care of that, and engineers. I know Butler, Fairman, and Cipher does a lot of the work for the drainage board, and they're in and out. They also do a lot of county highways inspections. So if I was guessing, Butler, Fairman, and Cipher would be helping with anything that was a technical engineering question, like if they submitted plans and they were trying to make sure they were going to work. But again, that's not our jurisdiction or mine. The county surveyor and the drainage board has the unilateral right to decide what the solution is. We just want to make sure the applicant is aware they need to deal with it and that it's included in their approval, so everything's upfront and it doesn't get lost through the cracks.
As long as it's inspected, that's all I care.
So, yeah, that's not a building inspection, so that wouldn't
Yeah.
come through either area plan or building services.
Yeah.
any more questions or discussion? Because I'm going to ask Liz then to kind of summarize her revised recommendation. There's any more questions, discussion?
Pretty much everything I had.
So what'd be your bottom line revised recommendation? If I'm reading it correctly, it's.
I'm going to try to organize this for you guys, because I assume that somebody's going to want to make a motion at some point. So, my advice would be that we kind of do this in a couple parts. I think you need to clearly specify if the materials are satisfactory.
Yes.
I don't know that you need a specific vote per se, other than to just say that they are, if that's your opinion. What's the board's feeling as far as the white border within the freestanding sign around the burger and the letters Burger King? Because what your feelings are would depend on how I would advise handling that condition.
I'm fine with the way it's presented.
Is that the consensus? I have no strong opinion either way. I interpreted it, I mean, I wouldn't have presented this way if I didn't feel like it was a gray area.
That's almost kind of similar to the concept beside the Farmers Bank signs, the changes at night and
Well, the concept is that the majority of the sign is dark, that any white is an accent color. And I feel like this sign does, even with the white, does meet that. The majority of it is colored. It's just a narrow line that would have that white. The majority of the white sign is blacked out at night. So I'm hearing a consensus is we're good with it as is. Okay, so if that's the case, you don't need to say anything about the sign because the submitted plans are that way and the minutes will just reflect the conversation. Are you okay with the Burger King letters? Do you know if staff is going to be finishing this up with the Burger King letters that previously were white on the plans being unlit, the letters themselves, then having a backlighting that would put a glow around them so people could read them?
I don't have a problem.
Okay. And then the other two are just conditions. So I would state that what you can probably do, if you're gonna follow the way the staff report's written, the recommendation is that you specify what your feelings are in the building materials, and if you're okay with them, which you are, that you would approve everything except the lighting plans and continue the final development plan approval to be administrative with Liz Stitzel, so they don't have to wait a whole nother month to come back, to verify the last revisions to the photometric plans and the signage have been made correctly to comply with all ordinances and the conditions of the Plan Commission. So if you agree with that, I think you can probably say that you're making a motion as per the revised staff report, and then with with conditions 1 through 5,
Yes, specified it.
1 through 5, 7 and 8. And I should have labeled them differently. The 2 conditions at the bottom that are 4 and 5 that I added on, this is what I get for trying to revise this within 20 minutes of when we're coming in. I should have given these their own number, but those last 2 about the LED lighting and the lighting needing fully shielded, those should be included as well.
Yeah, one more question.
The rest is just general guidance that'll be in the minutes for what you're telling staff to check.
As far as a freestanding sign, is that going to be changing any of the outer? perimeter?
No, that's actually one of your conditions. That is condition number 2, which states freestanding sign is face replacement only. Any reconstruction, replacement, or modification of the signpost, cabinets, and structure will require application to the BZA before proceeding. Sign is legal nonconforming.
Because if they totally take the sign down, that's a whole new ballgame.
If they even modify the sign, then to the extent they've modified it, it's a whole new ballgame.
They don't stay within the footprint of the existing sign.
They have to stay within the existing cabinet. If they take the cabinet off, then we look at height.
Right.
If they mess with the post, we look at proximity to the road. And even if the cabinet is taken off, if it is offset to not have the 10-foot setback at the top, it would have to move back regardless of the post. So that's what that condition is all about, is making it clear. Their plans show it's face replacement only, but making it clear that if their plans change, they're going to have to follow an additional process. It's okay. And that's what item 3 is about too, but with the light posts, it's the same thing. You have legal non-conforming structures. So that would be my recommendation, is to tie in your approval to the staff recommendation in the staff report revised today, with your conditions 1 through 5, 7 and 8, plus that the LED lighting be removed or comply with the lighting ordinance, and that all lighting must be fully shielded. And I think this is one where we should ask Miranda, when the minutes are written, not to write per the staff report, but to actually write out what the staff report says with the relevant conditions, so we can all double check that. So if somebody has to look back there, it's not going to be confusing since we made some modifications.
Yeah, because even the decision of the board has approval based on the minutes, so it would all need to be in there.
Yeah.
So is there any questions on the motion that someone's prepared to make per Liz's suggestion? Because when I came in here today, I was going to say, look, if there's a way to get it where it'd be the final approval with the administration. That's what I was doing.
Which I was not comfortable with at first, especially being the first one I've walked through this with you guys on, and the number of things that were missing. But at this point, we're down to just a few things that are very black and white. Like they're going to provide plans, they're going to meet, or they're not. We've specified the questions, so I know exactly what I'm looking for.
I could make the motion, but I have no idea what she said.
Just make a motion, just make a motion that,
Oh, yeah, I would say I'll help.
As-
Are you opening for motion?
Yes, I'm open for motion, yes.
I'll make a motion to accept this as Liz have described the changes in.
Okay, so just to be clear for the record, you're making a motion that you're approving everything except the lighting plans, and you're continuing the final development plan approval to be administrative with Liz to verify the last revisions are properly made, with conditions 1 through 5 and 7 and 8 that are listed in the staff report, as well as that the LED lighting must be removed or meet the lighting ordinance, and that all lighting must be fully shielded. Is that correct?
So moved.
Second.
Give it a second. And as far as you said, except for the lighting plan, that's would be included in your administrative review.
That's correct, because that's where we still have some non-compliance, so.
So we had Joe and Isaac. Any more discussion before a roll call vote on the motion?
Okay, Mark Mills,
Yes.
Mike Nichols,
Aye.
Larry Mosier,
Aye.
Joe Stevens,
Aye.
Isaac Chavez,
Aye.
Joseph Bookwalter,
Aye.
Chris Alba.
Aye.
Well, it carries, and I think we will not have any more
Turn the ball to
reviews,
your court.
My court has
but
lots
At least
of
on this project.
balls.
Yeah,
So,
if this was a total rebuild, if they were you're a brand new whole site on the building, I think.
It
we
would be
probably-
completely
I probably
different.
want to come back, but since it's more almost in the remodel category with some, but because of our new standards, which are kind of a big deal now, we need to really,
Although I will note as staff, as long as the plan review I am doing is, there's guidance in the ordinance that is specific, I don't have any problem with administrative review. Where I feel like it can get kind of hairy is when the ordinance has, in areas where the ordinance might have something very general that talks about at the discretion of, well, that can be challenging if you end up in court to figure out who's right and who's wrong. So it's better to have those kinds of things come before a board so there's a vote. But you're, at this point, we'll need to get things that were discussed revised before you'll get a final sign off to move forward to permitting. But unless you have other questions, you're good to continue.
Thank you.
so again, hopefully this will be the first of many development plans as time goes on. And the goal of this is to kind of make sure our corridors, our downtown areas, larger projects have detailed review with some good standards. And that's, they're totally taking the sign down. It would have to probably go much smaller and, as you see in some of the larger cities. And so sometimes they don't take them down for that reason, but kind of works.
Well, and I would note,
Sometimes.
this development plan review was done without any variances. But in these overlays, it's also not uncommon for variances to be examined by the BZA. They just that has to be done before it can come to you. So, so with situations like that with legal nonconforming, sometimes there are options if there's a practical difficulty, something unique about the situation, where there is a way to get that approval. It just can't be granted by this board until the BZA says that it's okay to accept in the development plan.
Well, is there any other discussion or topics to talk about?
I don't think so. This was the big thing. Other than my personality is to try to work with things as much as I can work with things, but from a plan commissioner's perspective, obviously this got really last minute. If there's a point at which in the future you would feel like I should just stick with a recommendation to continue and not do any further review, or if you're okay with the way this was handled, that would be the only question. Obviously, if I'm not able to do it, that's a different issue, but I was able to get this fit in barely in time, but in time, like that's what counts. So
You had like 10 minutes to spare. You're
I
good.
did.
That's a good job.
And I don't know. I mean, you say that, but I'm like, having worked through that motion, I'm like, that could have been a lot smoother if I'd had a moment to proof it. And,
My laptop's dead.
so
We're
I'm
doing
okay
great.
with it if you guys are, but I also want to make sure Plan Commission set those kinds of standards for how you want to see some of those things handled administratively. So if you felt like it was too chaotic for you on the receiving end, if you give me guidance, then we'll use that in the future. So otherwise, my instinct is if I can, I will. I try not to create obstacles that I don't have to create.
Is it fair to ask that we can anticipate you will be available to the City Plan Commission, at least for the foreseeable future, as our administrator?
That is my understanding. Rob, is that your understanding? That is our understanding, is that
In a way, we
is,
kind of need to know that, yeah.
yes. I'll be the one you're interacting with. Now we're copying, you're going to see me and Miranda and Rob together on a lot of correspondence. We're working really hard to make sure we're keeping all staff in both area plan and building services on one page with things so that we can be equally helpful. So, you don't necessarily need to change anything in your communication, or just add my email into the list.
I think everybody knows that in the back row, we got our new city building inspector.
No?
Administrator.
Yep. I've made this mistake only like 350 times in the last.
What's the title?
Not the building inspector anymore.
Administrator, isn't it?
Is administrator.
Mark Timmons is the building inspector.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I'm glad I brought the subject up then. That's good.
Yep. He's working part-time as building inspector. No, technically, both of them are certified building inspectors. They are both authorized to inspect buildings, but Rob has an administrative role as well now, not just a inspection role.
So does that mean we're gonna have more than 2 meetings in 10 months?
Well, you've already, Plan Commission and BZA have both been pretty busy since I've started administrating.
Especially
Because I also wanted to bring up a couple other subjects in the last year. We've talked about a comprehensive plan update and ordinance amendments. Does any of the staff want to address those issues? And
Yeah, I can
we
speak. I
anticipate
can speak to
more?
both of those. So on the comprehensive plan side, there's a funding component to that. And City Council is working through, there was a grant that was awarded, but there's matching funds that have to be produced to go with that. They're working through that process, but assuming that the funding can be found, then that's going to start to involve the Plan Commission before that process kicks off, as state law requires. In terms of ordinance amendments, I've got a list of ordinance amendments that need to be brought. Also, the changes in state law in the legislative sessions for the last 2 years are requiring some things. Some of them are ordinance amendments. One of them is a public hearing with very specific sets of topics that we must have before January 1st. So I am going to be trying to start working through those things and bringing them to you as we get kind of a rhythm going between staff. We are working with needing to re-sign with a new software company and get everything reset administratively. Mark would remember CityForce. But CityForce was bought out by iWorks. The relationship with iWorks sort of fell apart. They're not able to do what we need. So we're looking at another vendor. So our top priority right now is getting that sorted and getting started on a port to get our data secure and make sure that our administrative work can continue, and then starting to put together ordinance amendments for both the Area Plan Commission and its 5 jurisdictions and for the city of Frankfort are next up on the list of things that I need to start addressing. So I will future updates to come on that, but I know there's at least one public hearing we're going to have to hold by itself on some topics. We don't necessarily have to change anything, but we have to discuss it. And then we do have some amendments we're going to have to make, and we have some other amendments that we found that just need to be made. They're just, corrections, issues of clarity, things that the city attorney has requested, some things like that. So I'll try to hopefully have a summary list sometime in the next few months so you guys can kind of see what's coming towards you. At some point, either city council or city plan will need to call for a hearing on those amendments because one of those two bodies has to initiate the process. So
About 2 years ago, and you were instrumental because I think you made the presentation, we approved a rather large development out at 28 and 65.
And there's point there.
Well, we haven't heard one word about that development. It doesn't seem like you're doing anything. I don't know what
yeah, so that is not dead. It is still moving forward, albeit slowly. They have completed their pond and drainage infrastructure installation, which you don't really see a lot of because they're back there working, down that grade. They're currently working through the process of getting the as-built plans finalized and everything approved by the county surveyor. Once that sign-off is done, then we'll be able to move forward looking at the other common infrastructure. Additionally, meanwhile, they have 2 hotels that are committed to build there, and those need to be where their subdivision plat has already approved their event center. So they annexed in the last piece of their land that was still out in the county, so everything's on one side. They're working on preparing applications to revise the PUD, the subdivision plat, and the development plans so that they then can move forward with how the market has changed in terms of what their opportunities are. And then they're kind of going to shift some other stuff around. So we're waiting on details and a filing, but they are working on that engineering. So it's not a dead project, but it has moved very, very slowly.
It's going to be
so-
all city or.
It is 100% annexed into the city of Frankfort at this point, which is actually good because part of the problem that they were having that was slowing them down is even though it was only a small part that was still in the county, it was all in one subdivision plat. So there was no physical way for them to finish their approvals on 2 sides of a municipal line. State law wouldn't allow that. So it took some time to get the voluntary annexation done. And then, they've also been undergoing some changes as a company in terms of leadership roles as an older generation and newer generation are transitioning. So I think that's part of it too, is just as they're working through goals and where they're going, but they absolutely have remained as staff. We've continued to have periodic conversations. They've let us know they are planning to bring revised plans. Obviously, they're not going to be allowed to get building permits for hotels in a location that doesn't have a development plan or a plat that allows them to sell that land in that way. So they have to come here before they can move to that next step.
So what we did tonight, the development plan approval, that applies to the PUD district then too, right? So they'll be bringing.
Well, this specific one does not, but yes, the PUD does have its own development plan. It has its own, rules for how that gets looked
That'll
at.
be coming
And that
back to us
also is in the West State Road 28 overlay, which requires a development plan, and the PUD does not exempt them from the overlay standards.
It can be all one big hearing. I believe.
Yes, and honestly, there's already stuff approved, so I would anticipate what we're going to be seeing is revisions rather than a whole new project, so it'll be a little bit of a hybrid, but I think they've realized on their side they need to get all their ducks in a row once and finish this up once and then move forward. But at the time they did their initial planning, they didn't know they were going to have those 2 hotels signed, and those 2 hotels were going to feel very strongly about where they wanted to be located within the PUD. So that, I think, was a strong component in what's changed. And then they realized there's some other things that have changed, so I think they're just like, all right, we're going to do this at once. So I guess I can't give you a, exact, totally comprehensive update because I don't know what they're talking about internally, but I can tell you it's not a dead project. It's just a painfully slow one. So, and they are still excited about being in the community. The city is still excited about having them here, in meetings that we've had. City council members and the mayor remain supportive of getting it finished. I think once you see their common infrastructure go in and once you see this revised, it's going to move much faster because at that point they'll be able to sell the lots to the end developers who are going to come in for their permits and start actually moving earth in a more serious way.
And will we be seeing anything more before too long on the new subdivision on the southwest side of town, specifically the Del Rio one that we reviewed?
Oh, okay, sorry. I'm like, I can think of at least 3 subdivisions on the southwest side of town that this could relate to. I'm like, which one are we? So,
One new one?
no, there's more than one issue, but the others aren't things that need to come here. So, the Del Rio property, its zoning approval will become effective tomorrow.
Okay.
The the city council opted to allow that to just take place by default, but they were aware of it. So that was a conscious choice that they made. So the developer knows that their next step is to file their subdivision. We do not have a filing yet. So it'll come here next. I'm just not sure what the timeline is. They had initially said they thought they'd have drafts to us in April. We don't have those, so I assume just their engineering is taking a little longer. That's very normal for subdivisions. There's a lot that surveyors and engineers have to put together for major subdivisions, but it will not be permitted to file until it has a set of complete plans. So once I receive those, then we'll get it filed to be able to discuss. So.
And they now started building what's called Phase 2 at the end of Oak Avenue. Was that part of our original approval?
I was not here at that point. I'd have to look
ago.
up what is recorded and what is
They
not.
approved it to be done in phases.
But has phase 2 had a secondary come through yet?
That's what I was kind of getting at.
Because you have to have a secondary
You can go
recorded
all
for
the way
each
through
phase
now,
before
pretty
it
much.
can be constructed. So I think the question was if phase 2, if the secondary on that had been approved by the Plan Commission and recorded, or if it had not been. I'm assuming you're seeing something building there. That's the reason for the question.
Phase 2, yeah, they got the road put all the way through to connect with the road. that runs
Well,
out to
so
Main
is your
Road.
question if the road for phase 2 was included in phase 1? Is that what your
'Cause
question
I
is?
forget exactly what we approved 2 years ago.
Well, usually common infrastructure on your first phase sometimes does get included. I guess let me put it this way. I don't think any of us can see this on the fly. So if Miranda,
Good look at from my.
can you see what's recorded though? Because that's what's going to matter.
It's dead.
Oh, so you don't know. So I guess if
And
we
to
can
see-
make ourselves a note as staff,
to see
we can
progress.
check that and we can send an email to the Plan Commission letting you know what that primary plat includes and, go from
That
there.
road completed all the way over to Haven.
They're building. I drove all the way, and except for a couple little cones, I could have driven all the way to make sure.
It's a good check, though, because if the road was not included in phase 1 all that far, then they're in violation, and we would need to send them a letter to tell them they need to bring their next phase back for recording before they can be building the road.
You know, I want to
So-
make sure that
And construction documents, which also should be approved by the Plan Commission and the Board of Works before the secondary is signed for each phase. So there would be an obvious risk to installing utilities or roads that don't have approved construction plans through the Plan Commission and the Board of Works.
We approved all that infrastructure at one time.
I thought we did in concept.
Sometimes it all
but-
gets approved with the first phase, but that'll be shown in what's recorded. So we just need to pull that from the recorder's office and look, and we can send an email out as long as Miranda or Rob reminds me tomorrow to go pull that. We can find out what the nature of it is and deal with it accordingly.
But just with the staff transition, I want to make sure that's somebody is overlooking all that.
We're working really hard to work together to pick up the things from the past. I mean, there's going to be an element of stuff where, like, as it comes to us, we have to
pretty
deal with
major,
it. That's
yeah.
kind of what's been happening. But Rob and Miranda and Grace have been working really, really hard. And I know, like, Council-matic Committee has had some conversations with me. So is the mayor, really trying to make sure I'm updated on what's in process that they need me to look at. And I've been trying really hard to keep my eye on stuff coming through. And if I see something, say something to them the other way. So I feel like we're doing our best to try to not let balls drop, and don't mind the question. If there's something that you guys want to make sure isn't being dropped, I mean, it's your prerogative to ask, or you can just drop an email to staff and we'll check and let you know.
Because I know we approved the whole thing, but then I'm not sure what specific approval was.
We'll look.
For that whole thing, and just to make sure it's all.
We'll look. I mean,
all the-
you
all
would
the
have done the
things are
whole thing on the
cross-eyed problem.
primary, so we just need to see what's recorded on the secondary, and we'll let you know either way.
Same thing as wrapping up Riley, because Riley's getting real close to being done, but there's still a bunch of little fine things like finishing the curbing. And
Yeah, I've got a note that I need to
all this
follow up
kind
on
of stuff.
curbing issues in Riley, so that's on my list. I just haven't got to the top of the list with it.
I think that's all bonded, I think, somewhere. And
So, yep, all stuff to follow up on.
I was thinking for some reason there's already in phase 2 out there. That's what I thought.
Yeah, because we
I
have
mean,
to sign up
this is one where I'm
phase
just gonna have to
two
pull the
outside.
recorder's office.
Yeah.
I can't tell you off the top of my head what has already been recorded. I would be very leery to try to make a statement and then be wrong on the record. So I think it's just, I can look it up tomorrow and I can ask Miranda to send the info to all of you.
I appreciate it.
So any more discussion or issues to bring up? Have a motion then to adjourn.
Motion made. Second.
Roll call vote or?
I think you just adjourn.
Meeting adjourned. Bye.
Anyone who stays clearly didn't vote.
I know Liz was sharing, so, okay, I
fell
just wanted to make
asleep.
sure you had copies of it.
Isaac, can you sign?
That 14 different directions.
Anything else to bring today?
I might be a little tired.
Yes.
Well, I didn't elbow you, so.
That's good. It's a
You
good
you can
start.
only claim so
It's a
much
good start.
abuse. Now, I can't speak for Rob.
anything we have to sign?
Yeah, I need a pen. I'll
There you go.
back down.
Oh, Mike, you did a great job.
Now those have to be pre-grilled before you can put those up, don't they?